And we're live! We've got an echo. Echo. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is well and enjoying this absolutely gorgeous day. It has been gorgeous where I am, based in Portsmouth. I had the lovely sunrise this morning looking out my window and sunset earlier on. Everything was orange. It was like someone had a fake tan on, sort of thing. But anyway, we have our lovely guest. We have an invisible guest who should have been on, but sadly we can't find Helen. So Helen, if you're watching, please give us a shout and then we'll bring you in very quickly. But I will allow my guests to introduce themselves because I'm a lazy bugger and I can't be bothered. But I will allow the ladies to go first. So Ashley, off you go. Ladies first.
Hello, my name's Bernicia. I'm a medium. I'd say I turned professional being a medium for about 10 years, but I was actually born with the gift as a child. So I always knew a little bit more than what I should do. But being on this journey, it's been absolutely amazing. And I have to thank Spirit for how far I have come. But it's a fantastic experience. And I'm looking forward to the round table tonight.
Ashley?
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Welcome to the show this evening. Lovely to be here, meeting new people, and with our wonderful producer. So, those that don't know me, I'm Ashley Robinson. You can find me on Facebook at Ash Robinson Medium. I'm a spiritualist medium from South London, although I'm in Stratford upon Avon today from a new location for work. And I'm a boy and man spiritualist. Lucky enough to been brought up with spiritualist parents. My mum and dad, Ray and Jackie Robinson, are presidents and ministers of Wimbledon and Hatbridge Spiritualist Church in South London and Surrey. I'm also host a show on Spiritual Psychic TV every other Friday on spiritualist philosophy. I've been taking you and some of the listeners through my own journey about being spiritual, but great to be on the show tonight where I challenge you to ask us anything hopefully related to spirituality or spiritualism.
Hey, hold on. It's not your show. You don't run this. Don't try and take the reins here, young man.
Give me an inch, I'll take a mile, Richard.
I noticed. Look at him, look. He's on a roll there. If you're on a roll, there's plenty of floor space. Boom, boom. Right, should we do some hellos anyway, who's out there? Right, we have Richard. Oh, no, that was one from... What's going on? My system's doing a wobbly here. There we go. Who have we got on then? Multitasking. See, us men can multitask. I am seeing the comments. I am trying to do all this as well. So we have Holly, who's here. Hi, Holly.
Good evening, Holly.
Hi, Holly.
We have Alison, who's joined us as well.
Hi, Alison.
You all right, Alison?
Mandy.
Mr. and Mrs. B. Hi.
And we have Christine. So the thing is, when you get one Christine, you always can usually get the other Christine with you as well. So we've got Christine, we've got Catherine as well. Oh no, it's doing a wobbly. Told you, Catherine as well. Hi, Catherine.
Catherine.
And Lauren. I'm going to go really quick now, guys.
Hey, Lauren.
And
Hi,
Casey.
Hey,
the lovely Sally.
Sally.
I hope you,
Hi,
please,
Sally
please, everybody, send her some healing. She's ever so lovely. And we look forward to seeing her in March, I believe, Ash.
Okay.
For the event.
Wonderful.
Yeah, for the power. She's doing
to meet you, Sally Ann, and sending you some love, light, and healing.
Yeah, lovely, absolutely lovely. It's a group, actually, that I always, just very quickly, I'll say some more hellos in a minute. I remember going on a location with Sally and Bob Hunt from the Keep It Real Paranormal group. And I was invited to go behind the scenes and film it. And I must admit, I was so impressed with Sally and Bob's professionalism, including their team. But as we was walking around and we was filming, she just stopped and looked at me and said, I've got someone here called Alan who wants to talk to you. And he's laughing at all this. And that was my cousin Alan. And she was giving me other evidence, which I could not dismiss. It was so spot on. So maybe that's a topic we can just discuss tonight, is about evidence when doing mediumship, maybe. Has anybody's got any stories out there that has really made you believe that spirit are communicating through the medium. Have either of you two had any experiences yourself that you can tell the viewers of what was 100% concrete? Either you giving the message or receiving.
It's the most simple messages, isn't it? I mean, both as a medium delivering something, you think you're giving something, really odd or really bizarre, and actually it means the world to someone. And I'm tone deaf, and often in my family they make fun of me, singing a song. In fact, if I sing a song, everyone always plays sort of guess that tune. But I once was inspired to hum out a song. And I kept ignoring it, and they were really insistent. And then I did, and it was a family, and they said this is the song that we sang round their bed just before they died, and we all sang it together, and no one knows apart from us in the room. So sometimes it's that most simple of evidence, isn't it? And although I was brought up in spiritualism, I said a friend of mine who was killed when he was 18. We had shared a room together once on a school holiday, and the secret I took to my heart, something he took with him to his death, was that his mum had brought him some brand new underpants, and they were still in the packet. And he'd made me promise I wouldn't tell anyone about the fact his mum had brought him all these new underpants to take on holiday. And I didn't tell anyone, but it was a medium that suddenly said to me in the church, "I've got your friend here, and he's saying that thanks for not telling anyone about the underpants." And you think sometimes it is just the most simple of messages that give you that confirmation of someone's life after that change we call death.
Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely. I would say I had experienced the same thing when I started off. I had a gentleman come and sat down and I gave him a reading. And what I brought through was actually, I feel it was a close relative. It was a close friend of his who died. And they made this pact that when he crossed over, he needed to give a sign that he had reached the other side. Anyway, I was talking through the reading, and then I brought through something really bizarre, and he looked at me and he says, "You know what, you've just validated that my friend's just come through to let me know that he is over the other side in the spirit world." And he said, "Now I truly do believe." So even though when we're giving readings, we just trust what we're getting, but it is, as you say, Ashley, the most bizarre things that come through that it resonates quite strongly, and sometimes that is all that person needs to validate that their loved ones are there, and that's a beautiful gift to have.
Absolutely. We've got some comments coming in now, which was really nice. Oh, quick happy birthday to Louisa, and also
happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I think she's 47 again. I'm not quite sure. Because people keep saying 21 all the time. And I'm 21 3 times now. Anyway.
You could be 21 with several years' experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying anything negative there. And also, we've got Graham here. He's saying, this is why we are called mediums. We can deliver evidential evidence for those still on the other side. I've got to put my thoughts into this. I don't actually agree to that. And my reasoning being is this. You get so many mediums out there who call themselves mediums, and they're not. They're either psychic or something else, but they're not true mediums. How many mediums do we know who call themselves that word, mediums? How many mediums, can I say that in one sentence, are fakes, are frauds, but they still go out and say that who they are? Has anybody had any experience with people saying they're a medium and then it's blatantly obvious that they're not? I can think of quite a few on Facebook, to be honest with you. I'm not going to make any names, otherwise I will go into one, which won't be fair. But changing subject. So give us your feedback on that. Georgina Williams, hello to you.
Hey, Georgina.
Hi, Georgina.
To Terry.
All right,
Hi, Terry.
Stephanie.
Hi, Steph.
And see, Graham's saying exactly. See, I'm right. I know it all.
Great scarf in that photo, Graham. Reminds me of Doctor Who. That's nice.
The
bow ties, bow ties are very cool.
I said that the other day when Graham came on, and apparently he went to a wedding. He's a minister, and he actually dressed up as Doctor Who at this wedding.
Very cool.
Yeah. Hi to Sam Pert, to Psychic Medium.
Hey, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
So thank you all for coming on. I'm just looking out for any comments that are coming out there. Right. Can he?
It was interesting what you said, Richard, about medium. I suppose it depends on people's interpretation of the word. I've always thought as the word medium as a sort of more simple term. When someone says they're a medium, they are giving, they are the person in the middle. They are the medium between whatever it is they're communicating and who they're communicating it to. But as a spiritualist medium, for me, it comes with almost a caveat. As a spiritualist medium, I sort of agree with what we were just saying, that my job is to give evidence of life after death. It's not to do anything else other than that. I'm acting as a medium between this world and the spirit world to give evidence of life after death, to share the sort of truths of spiritualism. But I think you're right, people that rely on the word medium as sort of like, it's like I'm reading you, or perhaps I'm reading the cards, and therefore I'm a medium for you. I'm the person in the middle, perhaps.
Mm.
Yeah, but sometimes some people don't know the difference between psychic and medium, and I feel that's the issue. It's education, and once you educate the public what is the difference, then they'll understand what a medium really is. I feel that's the problem there.
Yeah, you're very right. I think we did one of my shows was exactly how to receive a message, and you think if everyone in the congregation, be that virtual or in a centre or a church, actually could tell the difference, they would know whether or not they are being cold read or psychically read, or their energy from an object. And I think that it would help to raise the standards. I mean, SBTV have done a lot of raising standards in terms of the people you see on here. You know, you're going to get what it is that someone says they can do, but actually raising the standards. If someone says they are a spiritualist medium, then they should be able to prove who the communicator is. They should be able to give evidence of that communicator, as opposed to perhaps a psychic medium that might just be reading the situation.
Good point. So what happens then if you go for, what would be in your situation if you was going for a reading and they said they were a medium, and then you realize that they were cold reading you, I should say? Would you pay that person if they demanded £30 for a reading? What would be your situation if that happened to one of you? If you two was going for a reading with someone?
For me, is they would have to give me clear signs that they are connected with their loved ones in the spirit. And for me, if they didn't, then I would definitely say no, I wouldn't pay them.
It's a good question. Money and the Consumer Act are interesting points in spiritualism anyway. And I think people should be able to do exactly what it is they claim they can do. If the person cold reading me was Sherlock Holmes, I think was one of the most experts, in Hollywood cold reading, then he gave such incredible evidence from that cold reading of the situation, didn't he, of the crime scene or whatever he's investigating. And you've obviously got entertainers like Darren Brown that can show what they can pick up from a cold reading, and therefore actually that sort of stuff, I suppose, could be useful. But if I'm looking for evidence of life after death, I want to know that my nan's got to that place I call heaven, and I want to know from her opinion what I should do in this situation I am, then I think that someone should be able to do exactly what they can. They shouldn't be able to read me and say, well, based on a situation, this is what I think, based on what I'm seeing. If you want your nan's opinion, you want a medium to be able to, or whoever comes forward, you want the medium to be able to say, well, this is the woman that's claiming to be your nan. This is the evidence she gives me to kind of, authenticate her, to verify that it is her.
Just an interesting... Sorry, Heidi is saying now that the proof she had was from Polly Harnett. She told me once I gave my mother a joint. No one would have ever known that. Most of my family didn't know that. So that's just evidence in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it an elbow joint or a knee joint or one of the herbal variety?
I'm guessing it was. I'm thinking food. No, and this lot will probably be food. But okay, what do you define the difference between a psychic and a psychic medium then?
Well, I think if you use the word medium as the person in the middle, and then it's the word psychic, or the difference between psychic medium or perhaps spiritual medium. I like to think that I can work in both, and I recognise the difference of that energy. For me, spiritualist medium, the concept is As a spiritualist medium, I'm giving evidence of life after death. I have a communicator. The communicator needs to prove who they are. Once they're able to give the evidence of who they are, they can give a message. Whereas a sort of psychic medium, it might be more that I'm picking up on the situation, the energy of the situation. Perhaps to a certain element, it's, you know, the more sensitive side of me, or my empathetic side. Perhaps I'm looking at the person and I'm feeling their pain, or the fact they're in need of some healing. Perhaps they've just had an argument with a loved one, and you're kind of feeling that energy or their aura, or seeing those sort of colors around them. So for me, that's where I draw the line in the sand. Spiritualist mediumship, evidence of life after death from a communicator who can verify themselves with a message, perhaps even a little bit of philosophy. As a sort of psychic, for me, it's more about reading the situation and the energy, with the absence of a communicator. But you know, that's my opinion. How about you?
Well, for me, yes, I would say that. But as a spiritual medium, you can still pick up on emotions and feelings, but you still bring that evidence through. And I would definitely say that a psychic can't tell you who's giving that information. They will give you a broad spectrum, but they can't say where that evidence came from. And that, for me, is the distinction between the mediumship and the psychic ability.
Graham's made a comment here, and he's saying being a spiritualist is a belief and a way of life. Being a medium is a person able to channel loved ones past. Psychic is one whose body responds to their body. Interesting. So are you saying then, Graham, that a psychic responds to the body? Is it through? Are they watching through body language? Are they working through?
No, what I feel what he's saying is by body is that as a psychic you can pick up on emotions and feelings. That's what I feel he means by that, body to body. You can sense things, you can pick things up from a psychic perspective.
Yeah, and I do agree with what you say. I think if you're able to work with communicators and guides, then there is an element of perhaps dipping in and out of the psychic sort of energy fields as well. And sometimes I like to think that, you know, a pure psychic perhaps can't prove who the communicator is. Now, I know there's a lady on the telly that never refers to herself as a spiritualist. She always refers to herself as a psychic, and does attempt to give evidence of communicators. And I've always found it quite interesting. I've met that person in real life, and I've said to them, I said, you know, why is it that you're unable to say that you are a spiritualist or a spiritual person? And that they just felt that for them it was their gift, that they were very special because they could give evidence of someone who lives in a sort of different world. And I had to argue with them. I mean, I shouldn't really, because they're, professionally speaking, they're doing far better than I am, you know, working at Women and Spiritualist Church. But it was this sort of element of, I think that talent and gift is all about delivery. I think that anybody can work with spirit. Indeed, I think the spirit world are very happy to work with us all in different ways. The talent side of it, or the gift, comes in perhaps how you deliver it, and how much, like any craft, you spend practice it, and the discipline you put into it. But I also think that perhaps this person that's quite well doing well on the telly likes the fact that people then aren't put off by religion. Religion seems, for some, a barrier to accepting evidence of life after death. And it's easier to compartmentalize it and say, no, it's not about my own spirituality or spiritualism. I just, you know, my mum's died and I want this person to give me some evidence about what I should do in this situation. If my mum's able to influence them, then great, perhaps.
Interesting. So we can really open up a can of worms here. People, please still keep your comments coming through. I am reading them while everybody else is chatting away. And I will pick up on some which I find interesting, which is Stephanie is saying that I personally don't understand how people could use others like that. The energy stolen will have to be paid back. And for me, I agree with that. If you're taking, when I see people on Facebook, and when I first started SBTV, I was doing a lot of research on how mediums were going live, what they were doing. And there was this one gentleman, I'm sorry for all those who've heard this before, because I do rant and rave about this one person, who has over 400,000 followers and was charging at that time £15 per person to subscribe to his channel. And in my view, weren't given mediumship readings, were given more of a psychic reading, and wasn't really given any evidence in my view. And this man possibly earns an estimate of £20,000 a month
Wow.
on given readings through his Facebook channel. Now, I see so many fantastic mediums out there who struggle, and they have ill health, they have financial difficulty. I'm not saying all like that. And then I think, why? Why they have to suffer to serve spirit when we have this little whippersnapper who, in my view, are not serving spirit. They're doing it for their own justification and for greed. And I get annoyed that where do you draw the line in people earning a living? Because we all have to earn a living somehow. But when someone steps over that line and just do it now for greed and the popularity, and they're not really doing it for spirit, they're not doing it for the love to help others. And this is why I'm so determined that SPTV will always remain non-profit. Any money that is donated goes back into this project. And I work many hours, long hours, 12, 13, 14-hour days, trying to serve spirit in my way to deliver a service for everybody. But when I see this one person earning that amount of money, and it's not jealousy, I get angry that there's so many genuine people out there trying to earn a living and help others, and they just seem to struggle. Yes, I know the argument could be, well, they're there to learn, so then they can help others with that. Do you think that money, as Graham just said, corrupts?
Always, whether it does within spiritualism, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think that anyone in the spirit world would want us to go hungry and not be able to sort of afford to pay our bills. So I think that charging reasonable amounts of money, if you're dedicating your life to this, is acceptable, and particularly if you're working on your craft in the same way you would any profession, that it's reasonable. I do think that there's this line in the sand about what's reasonable. You know, and I know that if you have a bit more fame, if you've been on the telly, you've been on the radio, you've sold a couple of books, that you could charge more than that because people will pay, or perhaps you have a bigger waiting list. And that for me is strange. You know, for me, spiritualism feels like a calling. It often feels like a hobby because it costs me financially more to be part of it than it does pay like my my sort of Monday to Friday job. And I think that it's difficult, isn't it? People need to understand what it is that gets them out of bed in the morning. Why is it they do it? Why dedicate themselves to the training, to sitting in circles? Why regulate themselves? And therefore, even without the money, the idea of professional or professionalism is really important. You know, the standards that need to be met for me is really important. There are very few bodies that kind of set that standards, both internationally and across the UK. And indeed, if you can deliver a message in the UK and you happen to do it across the pond to some of the states, you know, very easily stick on the title international in front of your name, can't you? I'm now an international medium.
No, actually, you can now say, and I can officially say this, you are a worldwide medium now. You've been on SPTV, you've done your mediumship from all over the world.
Yeah, but there you go. Is it important? You know, is the word international important? I mean, do people go, oh, I was going to get a message from that bloke called Ashley Robinson, but he's only a South London, Wimbledon-based medium. I was really looking for an international medium.
Yeah, but then that's only because I've gone to the Isle of Wight for the weekend and done a reading over there, so they've become international.
But I would say when I came into doing spiritual work, I had an argument with my guides before I actually took this path, because I had an issue about the monetary side, because for me is I'm here to serve, I'm here to guide. And what they said to me, it's about having that balance. And at the end of the day it is about helping those in need. Yes, this is about an exchange of energy. If you went to a doctor, a private doctor, you wouldn't expect to have his services for nothing. So they said, yes, you have to charge, but you have to be reasonable. It's like I had a friend, they had two readings. They had one with a normal medium who charged a reasonable rate, and then they had a reading with a top class medium which was charged about £250. And you know what, they turned around and said they'd rather have a reading with the less known person, because the well-known person said that the the less known person gave them exactly the same information that they give. So for me, it's not about the money, it's about those people who are charging, because for those who are charging the upper amount, they're not doing it for spirit, they're doing it for their lifestyle. And for us, if we keep it to a level, to, because it's normally those in need who need it the most, who can't really afford it, and therefore we're putting it out of reach. And I do feel as us as mediums, we have to take a responsibility and thinking about who are the people we really want to help.
Yeah, I agree. I understand that with the mediums, there's a lot of mediums who work out there. There's a lot on SBTV are self-employed, and they depend on the readings, the workshops, and I think to survive. But those mediums work very long hours as well. You wouldn't expect a plumber to come into your house, knock on the door and say, yeah, I've got a leak, come in for free. They need to be paid as well. So I understand that side of the argument. For me, it's more of those who go for the greed, who just want to have that popularity. And I've seen it many times. A quick story here. When I first started SPTV, I had a gentleman ring me up and ask if he'd come on SPTV. And I said, sure, but let's have a conversation first and see who you are and then so forth. I was on the phone for about an hour, and I was starting to feel something wasn't right with this gentleman. So then he asked me how many viewers we got. And at that time, when we first started, we weren't getting many. We were only getting a few hundred. And so I told him this, and he said to me, look, my dear, I have filled theatres. SPTV is too small for me. I said, can I just ask what your name is again, please? And I was being genuine. I wasn't being funny or anything. So he told me his name. So I quickly looked on Facebook and around him. Bearing in mind, I was only going for about 6 months then, and we had a few thousand followers. I saw his site, his Facebook page, no videos or anything. And he was been going since 2012. Bearing in mind, he told me he filled out theatres and he's been on TV and all this sort of stuff. And he had 239 people following him in nearly like 10 years. So when I made this point to him, he put the phone down on me. And I thought, was that ego? I don't know. I never got that conversation as to why he just put the phone down. He could just say, well, I never advertised. But if you're going to tell me you work international, you've been on television, you've been on radio, so has everybody else. A lot of people have done that. But because he was, in my view, because I called him out, he didn't like it and just put the phone down.
Yeah,
so, ego
is an interesting thing, because I do feel that you need a bit of ego to do what we do. You know, even to see someone privately in your home, you need a little bit of ego and the confidence to do that. You need a little bit more ego to get up on a platform at a church or a spiritualist centre.
Absolutely.
In a theatre, you need a little bit of ego to go on to Skype and see no one and deliver your messages. And you also need that trust in sort of spirit. But of course, you need ego to be kept in check, don't you? And you're hoping that your guides and your own sort of sensitivity knows that you've got just enough to sort of get out there and have that confidence and love from spirit to know what you're doing is correct and right, without then going the other way. And of course, there are lots of other things which can be detriments of character, but can also be really important. You know, I think that going back to money, you know, I mentioned two churches are dear to me where I'm from, Wimbledon and Hatbridge.
Twice. Yeah. I'm going to count how many times you're going to bring them in tonight.
We want to keep the lights on at those churches. We want to be able to open the doors as soon as it's safe to reasonable to do that. We've got to therefore pay bills. And anyone that has any type of mission or centre, or even people working from their home, have those sort of bills to pay. And I think that there is an important thing about obviously making sure that you can break even and keep those places open. Then there's that question of what else could we do if we had more money? I mean, you know, Wimbledon had a little bit of money in the pot before lockdown. We're able to invest in then a web camera and some microphones and start streaming the service with the help of SPTV. So this idea of being able to take spiritualism out of the churches and the centres to the people is quite important. Doing what we're doing today. I mean, what an incredible platform and opportunity opportunity SPTV is for people to come together, to bring like-minded people together, the virtual congregation this evening. So yeah, it's just about getting those ingredients at a raw level and saying, yeah, we need you to have enough confidence and enough trust. We need you to have enough ego to sort of get up and do this, and to know that the gifted elements can then turn into some of your raw natural talent. I think we were both talking about understanding this as kids, but then how much you didn't just stop and say you knew it all. You continue to learn and read books and invest in yourself and take feedback from others. My grandfather always used to say to me, "You're only as good as your last message." And he used to talk a lot from that point at church. But back in 1982, when he and a lady called Doris Stokes, Jesse Nason and Gordon Hinson, they tried to take spiritualism out of the churches to get people. There was, of course, the incentive of then getting those people back to the churches too, because you want the people to come to a church every week and maybe put some money in the plate so you can open the church again and open the doors. So all of it for me is about getting the proportionally getting the right mix of ingredients and help, so that you can keep people interested in this.
I know we've got a question from Julie here saying, how do we find out if we have the ability? But she's just popped up another good question. Hi, Snoozy, who's just come in. Hope you're doing well. And I quite like this one. She goes, can we get obsessed with wanting to connect with loved ones?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It can become like a way of life, that all you want to do is to connect with your loved ones, and sometimes that's not always healthy either. So for me, you've got to find a balance with that. Spirit will always step forward when they see the need. It's almost as if, as they watch us, as they see us struggle when we're ill, Spirit will always step forward. We've just got to trust what we're sensing in that, either in dreams or what we sense around in our homes as well. Spirit will always make themselves known. It's almost as if we don't have to go out our way. Spirit comes to us when we're in need, or they feel that we're in trouble, because I know that's happened to me many times.
Here's a question for you both then. I know you both work in mediums. What do you do in a situation, let's say, either going live online or in your church services, and you see the same people taking nearly every single message? Now, they may take part of a message, and I know we get a lot on SPTV that people can take a lot of messages, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying if you're doing it and you've seen the regular people taking all the messages and you know it's not for them, how do you deal with that? How do you, apart from getting the messages and try and get more evidence, how do you deal with that? I'm talking about when you're in a church and you've got the same people sitting there and they're taking everything, and you think, but it's not for you. But they're so desperately, and as Julie just said, obsessed by getting that connection.
So some of this, I think, goes back to professional standards, and Matt and Kirsty Grogan that do a lot on SPTV. One of the first people that I'd seen that tried to unite a lot of the societies which regulated spiritualism. I myself am affiliated with United Spiritualists. SNU is obviously the biggest in the UK. Lots of others, Greater World and so on and so forth. But this idea of going out of your way, finding some common ground to never exploit someone's vulnerability, understanding that someone could be obsessed with that connection, particularly if they can't get that evidence of life after death themselves. They want it from that medium, particularly when there's money involved, is you mustn't exploit that. My father, who's still very much a mentor to me within spiritualism, I will say to him, Dad, how reasonable is it that someone wants to keep coming back for a reading? Should you make him wait a year? Should it be 6 months? Is it okay to wait a week? And I think it's about understanding this sort of proportionality. And I've always felt that I love Derek Acorah's quote: to the believer, no proof is necessary. To the non-believer, no proof is ever going to be possible. So when someone understands and believes in life after death in the same way that we do, actually, you need to make sure they're not becoming addicted to that constant connection. And actually, if they believe they've got their mum with them, second cousin twice removed, whoever it is, then great. And SBTV, when you've got thousands of people watching, if they think they've got their mum there, their mum is sending love and light, brilliant. They should take that away, making the evidence as specific as possible, so you can say, if you can't say all of this, then it's not for you. And the other thing, and SPTV has been brilliant for me in this, it's about challenge my communicator. If I've got someone that claims to be someone's mum that passed, from a heart attack and had a birthday in August, and 300 people say, yeah, that's my mum, that's not good enough. Okay, communicator, give me something more specific. Well, she's given me the letter J. Okay, the letter J, or it goes from 300 to 100. No. And the idea of a medium continually challenging that, so that the evidence I'm getting out there doesn't become a fishing trip. It becomes more specific. And ultimately, sometimes it's about having that confidence. And again, in my church at Wimbledon and at Hatbridge, I might have seen the same people. On a Sunday morning, 25 of the 30 people in the congregation were the same people every week. And after a while, I would have given them all a message over the year, and they start to get messages time and time again. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but again, it's about understanding. Well, I've got your mummy, your cousin, your dad, whoever it is. This is what they've got to say. This is what's different this time, or this is the new evidence. I think on SPTV, it's about making it really specific. And also, what's pushed me to do it is getting my communicator to say, I don't know them. I don't know Fred. I don't know Jane. I don't know Julie. Or then when someone comes in, they go, yeah, that's my boy. Dave, that's my boy. This idea of working with your communicator and your guides to such a point that you know the difference. And I would dearly love my mediumship to get to a level that, regardless of who's online, I would know exactly where I'm going to. Sometimes I can do that in a church. Sometimes the evidence still comes to me, and as the communicator comes forward, I'm still presenting it. But I never want to be a fishing trip style medium that just casts out the evidence every single time, hoping that someone's going to bite. Because as soon as you start saying, I've got a family member, anyone understand a mum in the spirit world, people are going to step forward. So the final thing I'll finish with is I've got to avoid using questions, and I challenge anyone, if they see me asking lots of questions when I'm delivering mediumship, to challenge me on that, because my job is not to ask you questions. My job is to give you evidence and to know in the direction I'm going in. So don't take advantage of anyone's vulnerability. Be aware of it. Raise our professional standards within our community, and as a congregation, continue to challenge the status quo. Thank you.
I remember hearing mediums years and years ago. I'm not going to say how many years, because they'll all find out how old I really am. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm 105. Anyway, and I remember this one medium saying to the congregation, please talk to me. I need to hear your voice for the vibration so spirit can know who they're talking to. Now, that's always got me. I've never understood that, because I've always believed it's not about the person's voice. It's about the energy that the person already has by sitting there. That's what the medium is sensing. That's what spirit know that you're going to be there at 8 o'clock. Oh, they can't do, because there's no such thing as time, is there, in the spirit world? So how do they know you're going to be there at 8 o'clock? Very strange, but never mind. Let's go down another rabbit hole there. Yeah. So for me, and years later, by doing SPTV, it's actually quite apparent you don't need a voice at all. You cannot hear the recipient. You have no idea who's on, who is watching. There is no way who you know is going to watch unless you have Facebook or Twitter on, and Twitter or Facebook or YouTube on, so you can see the recipient. But I know that you guys don't. You don't have time to do that, because you're too busy listening to me singing to you in your ear, or moaning or something like that. So what's your thoughts on it then? When you look back on all the training you had going back 20 years ago, don't sit there with your arms crossed or your legs crossed, because you need to feel the energy coming through. I remember one medium, Charles Samways, his name was, in Portsmouth, when I was doing my teaching, and he told me to uncross my legs because the energy needs to come from the ground upwards. And my answer was, but I'm on the first floor. So how does that work? So going back to my question, what's your thoughts on what you was trained and taught as a medium through your experiences, and now that we've all been in lockdown, and how people have been trained differently, like via Zoom, via the internet or whatever the case may be, how it's different. What do you see has changed?
What I would say for me is Spirit has definitely shown that there is no barriers how we can communicate. I can just look at a name and still give a message to that person. What it's shown us is that for me, it's raised our games. It's make us realize if there is a message to be given, it will be delivered in any way, which form it can be. So for me is I feel that I feel a lot more confident in terms of my communication with the spirit world. You are more guided. You don't have to hear a voice. You don't have to see the person. You can give that message. So for me, it strengthens our gift even more.
Yeah, I think it's a lovely answer. And 18 months ago, Richard, before I started, and you were the first. You took my Skype first. I had this idea in my own head from my own culture. And I think that looking back, and I've got a couple of my circle leaders that are on tonight, but when I was learning to do private readings, I think it goes back to that question we just had about psychic versus spiritual. And I think there was a part of me as an individual that craved that psychic connection. I wanted to connect with my sitter, and I wanted to connect with them by hearing their voice, by engaging with them, perhaps even by holding their hands or holding some of their property, some jewelry. And when I was first starting off, for me, I understand now, I think I was craving almost that psychic energy, that psychic connection with the person to get a link. And when I started doing platform mediumship, different people, circle leaders, my granddad used to say, you need to know where you're going to in the church or the centre. And I said, the spirit, help me, show me a light or give me a name, direct me in that way. And it was only when I started doing more of the sort of public demonstrations of mediumship, less of the sort of the one-to-one mediums, that I started to understand that different types of energy. And ultimately, all this boils down to my relationship with my guides. I was getting messages in circle while I was still developing relationships with my guides. Now I understand I have an entire team of people working with me that I didn't really understand when I was a teenager. And this idea that actually there was one person in charge of mediumship, and it's taken me years to develop a relationship with them, but they were always there in the background. So for me, it's getting that relationship. And a couple of times on SPTV, I've said to people, what's in my head? Because in my head, in my mind's eye, I've created this really, really simple concept of a waiting room. And the waiting room for me is where my mediumship guides are starting to bring people from that place I call heaven into the waiting room. And I always say they're like a bouncer for me. They're my doorkeeper. They're protecting me. They're also verifying the credentials of the person that's going to give the message. So that when I start to say, who are you? They can say, friend, family, this is what I died of. This is who I want to go to, and push it forward. But really, I suppose it's that continual professional development. It's the investment, looking to get better and better at this all the time, never being satisfied that you have completed all of your training, because energy is energy, and energy can be absolutely everywhere all at the same time. And it's about understanding your relationship with that energy. So anyone thinking about doing this, for me, it starts with that first conversation with someone that can teach them. Find your local spiritualist church or centre. Find someone that has some experience of doing this to take you through those steps, and really get to know and love yourself. Establish the relationship with that team of people in that spirit world that are going to help you.
But not only that, as you climb up the spiritual ladder, you're always learning. You're always perfecting. Nobody ever reaches that top, because it's changing and evolving as you get stronger and stronger and stronger, and your team changes all of the time. So for me we can't say we will ever get up to the top of the ladder, because the ladder keeps changing all of the time.
Interesting.
Game changer for you, Richard, is when they can Skype in from heaven and they do this all themselves with us.
And I still moan and sing to them.
Well, if it's truly their personality that survives after that change called death, then they're all going to be, that element of human being will still overshadow them. So they'll still all be learning. I doubt they become perfected souls in the first few days in heaven.
Now, Rachel's saying hi to both of you.
Hey, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
And we had our lovely Pamela as well,
Pamela.
saying hi as well. Well, just a thing, Tim has been saying a few comments. Where did I see them? Now, just quickly remind people, we only see around 200 characters on Facebook. So if you're typing an essay, we won't actually read the comments. It's just too long. So Tim, try and keep it a little bit small if you can. Everybody else on YouTube, you're fine, because that's a brilliant platform. We are streaming on both, by the way. Anyway, Tim is saying, I think when you are doing an online service, there's no distractions. For example, the people coming into church, like old men rustling, the lady going to the toilet halfway through the demonstration, and the media can get out of focus. So when you're doing online and you're doing like Facebook, for example, and you're seeing all these comments come flying up the screen, how do you cope with that?
It could be overwhelming. I've done a couple of Facebook lives without you, Richard, and you are my Jiminy Cricket. What? You are my consciousness as well as my producer. And I've done it. I did a couple before lockdown, before I'd worked on SPTV, and I've done a couple since, just to keep people from the church sort of connected. And it is overwhelming, and you've got hundreds of people all chatting away and talking about what they had for dinner and sending each other love and light. And you've also got people saying, "Oh, I think you're with me." So I think that in many ways that is a skill. You certainly have a skill and a strength as a producer, particularly as you're monitoring both Facebook and YouTube, looking for those comments and making sure, of course.
I enjoy banning, kicking people off. That's my favourite part of it.
Trolls. It was good to have some good admins. We've got some good admins in Terry, we got Terry and the team as well. But Tim makes a sort of good point. And Tim, you and I have never met physically. I know you're about to host a mediumship development course for us at Women's Spiritualist Church, which is advertised on the SPTV website, folks. So I was giving you a plug as well, Richard. Check out the SPTV website. But I just want to comment on the letters after your name. So DSNU. Now, I didn't know what that was, Tim, and as I say, I'm with effectively a free spirit, but affiliated with United Spiritualists. I now know that stands for a diploma with the SNU, and I spoke to my dad about this, and he spoke about the amount of time and effort and energy and dedication that you would have put in to effectively achieve that type of accreditation. And I think that it's an interesting thing again within spiritualism, because who do you listen to? Yeah, right. Who is it when they're dishing out this advice about what is right and who is wrong? It's about having sort of some common standards that you can go to, and I think that SPTV has become one of those badges, Richard. I've not seen any rubbish on SPTV at all, and even
Friday night, usually once a fortnight.
When your troll invades, you deal with it, and people need that, don't they? And this has become for me a safe place in the World Wide Web. We can go to SPTV. You're going to get no nonsense. So you're going to get 1,000 different people with different opinions, but they're all going to speak with their truths. They're going to maintain an element of sort of professionalism, professional standards. And I mean, all of this kind of leads together what this is. The distractions. This is plain and simple, isn't it? When I'm delivering mediumship for SPTV, it's just me and the webcam, and I'm just getting what I'm getting from spirit. And in many ways, it's purer. I'm definitely not cold reading, because I can't. I'm not really picking up on a psychic energy level, because there's no one in the room with me. And it helped me to trust the evidence I'm getting, to trust my guides, and to challenge my team to help me get better evidence. So thank you for that push, Richard, and also thank you for others, because you're only as good as your last message, yeah? And what about the other people that have just given messages? It's not a competition, but standards, it should be. We should all be competing to have the highest of standards.
But mediums and people have bad days. It's like anybody. They can be excellent one day, and then you go with them another day, and it's just not there. They have their own personal lives that they have to deal with. And I think a lot of people, especially when I've watched on the channel here and on others, they get bogged down with their own personal lives, and you can see it on their faces sometimes that they're just not with it. So when I say all our presenters, and I think you can back me up here, Ashley, if there's an issue with the family or you're not feeling too well, the first thing I would say to you is health and family always becomes first before SBTV. You're not coming on. You're staying off. It gives me a night off as well. I won't allow it, because for me, when I see some mediums not struggling, but I can see it in their face and they're not their usual self, I want to finish the show, because I want to give them the best. I want them to make sure that they look good on screen at the same time, because a medium can't give you the evidence that you're asking for if they're not good in themselves. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of energy that goes into it. And you may have an off day, and all it takes is someone to say they were a load of rubbish. But you don't know that. We don't know what's going on in their personal lives. We should always give the person the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't matter how many years you've been a medium. You could be doing it for 30, 40 years. You may have been trained by the best, Gordon Higgins and all these sort of people. It doesn't mean you're going to be as good or you're going to be brilliant. You'll have a bad day. You have a good day, you have a bad day. And
as long as your intentions are pure and true.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, diverting now, because there's lots of questions are coming in, and I am reading them, everybody, as much as I possibly can. But one question keeps coming up through nearly all of our shows, be it on Kirsty and Matt's, on your own show, Ashley, and I know it's been answered many times, but people have different views. How do you know that it is spirit communicating with you and not your own imagination or your own thoughts? I know we've had this many, many times. It's been asked many times again tonight. So thank you for sending it in. So what do you think, guys?
Well, for me is when spirit comes to you, they say things that you are not even thinking about, or there could be somebody talking to you and all of a sudden you hear somebody say, no, they're not telling you the truth. And you think, well, why am I hearing this? Why am I hearing that? And then later on, you do find out that what was said to you was actually true. So for me, is when spirit does step forward, they give you proof that you wouldn't otherwise know.
Just going back, you said there you were told. Now, for the people who don't quite understand, are you physically hearing a voice? Or is it like an impression put onto your mind?
Okay, with me is I actually hear a voice in my head. I actually hear somebody talk to me, and it's in my voice.
Yeah. Mm.
So for me is, I always say when spirit steps forward, as long as they come from that place of love and compassion, then we listen. And what I always do is ask to give me more proof. And when they give me more proof and they're validating everything that they said, then I know it comes from spirit. With me is I actually feel their energy. I get slightly cooler in my body temperature when spirit is around me. So I know that they're close by.
Is that the same as with you, Ash?
To a certain extent, yes. I mean, in the early days, when I was getting communicators come through, I wasn't as aware as I am now with my sort of guides. So the guides say, presenting, I often talk about Bob, who's one of my principal guides, and he'll say, I'm presenting this person to you.
How do you know it's Bob? How do you know it's a guide?
So this is an interesting story, because Bob's actually not my principal mediumship guide. But 18 years old, when I was struggling to really understand. I'm going into
this again. But what do you mean by your principal guide?
Okay, so for me, everyone's born with a guide or a guardian angel, someone who in that spirit world will dedicate their entire spirit life to your life as a person. In the same way that you're my Jiminy Cricket, Richard, a guide is someone that is dedicating their entire life in spirit to your earthly life, to be with you. And then for me, there is a team of people that might help you with different things, your creativity, your healing. And for those people that are going to develop mediumship, there is someone that will help them with mediumship. Now, some people, like a click of a finger, as we spoke to Bill Hughes, didn't we, the other day, they find their guide straight away through good circle leadership and meditation or bits and pieces. For me, I always struggled. I struggled to understand who my guides were. And a lady called Jill Hay, who was my godmother and a circular at one point, one day presented me with a guide, Bob. Now, I knew Bob when he was alive. He was a godfather figure to me. I knew who he was, and very easy in my mind's eye, I was able to establish I knew Bob when he was alive. I now believe that he's in a place called heaven, and every time I see Bob present himself in my mind's eye. I know he's going to be working with me to introduce the messages. And Bob absolutely was helping me. But it was 10, 15 years into delivering messages that Bob kind of said, I really don't star in the show. There's this other guy, called Bear that does all the work for me. I work for Bob, if you want to understand it like that. Now, that's very simple, plain English. I don't think that's exactly how heaven works. But for me now, Bob comes into my head. I knew Bob when he was alive. He was this godfather figure to me. He was an amateur, semi-professional boxer. I established that with strength. So it's about the intention of safety. When he comes into my mind's eye, I see him as the bouncer in the waiting room in heaven, where he brings in those people. And then he's presenting those people to me. And I could see it like a conversation in my head, in the same way I say to you, what were you doing on your last birthday before lockdown? And you can imagine it and you can see it in your head. That for me is where spirits start to influence me, and I'm not using my physical ears to hear, but I'm hearing inside my mind's eye. And that's when they're presenting these communicators to me, and they're saying, well, this woman's claiming to be someone's mum or nan or second cousin twice removed. She's claiming she had this happen to her and that happened to her. And as they give me that evidence, I feel that it often comes through my guide initially, where he's kind of done the pat down at the door, there's a doorkeeper, and check the ID. When the communicator then comes forward, it's almost as if the communicator is influencing me in exactly the same space. So that for me is the difference. But I'm 38 now, so it was 20 years ago when I first sat in a circle, but I was a young kid when I first started hearing and seeing spirits. So all of this has continued to develop over a period of time, where all of my senses become aware in the body. Sometimes I've been lucky enough to physically see spirit or physically hear them. Incredible phenomenon. I wish I could get more of it. Often I can smell or taste things from the spirit world. Other times I feel like I'm hearing, smelling or tasting, but it's really the capacity of my own brain, my own consciousness, as it gives me that smell or gives me that sort of taste. So some of it is physical phenomenon, some of it was within my mind's eye. The difference between me making it up, I suppose, in my imagination for me now comes with that established relationship with my team of guides and the people that help me. But always look for the supernormal explanation before the supernatural, and work, I suppose, to establish that relationship with people that are helping you from the spirit world, so you can feel the difference.
Which I never asked a question. Now I nearly fell asleep. No, not really. I'm joking. I'm sorry, Ashley. You know what I'm like? I have a wicked sense of humour. I like to have a good giggle. But anyway, before we move any forward, we need to put some adverts on people. So we now do some more hellos, and then we go and answer a couple of more of your questions. So what we have on, what day is it today? It's Friday. I get my coat. We have Polly Harnett on tomorrow night from 8 o'clock with a demonstration of medium. So please come along. I can guarantee you it's going to be a giggle. You think I'm quite crude. You want to listen to her, but her mediumship is very spot on. And she also co-hosts the Sunday Sofa with Leah and Jane. On Sunday at 11 o'clock, we have the Divine Service with, go on, Ash.
Woman and Spiritualist Church, live on YouTube with Spiritual Psychic TV.
That's 5 times. Right. At 11 o'clock, and I believe it's Michelle Scott, is it?
Yes.
On this Sunday. And no Sunday Sofa, but what we do have, and I haven't even got it ready, this is how unprofessional I am. We have a brand new show starting on, Sunday at 2 o'clock. We have Veronica Jenkins with her new chat show.
Lovely.
And that's going to, the very first guest is Gwen Akora, Derek Akora's lovely wife. So she'll be on for I cannot think, with an interview, and she'll be answering any of your questions if you have any. And as I'm talking, I'm trying to find a graphic, and that's why I'm giggling to myself. And finally find it right at the end. There it is. My Kind of People starts at 2 o'clock with Gwen Akora with that. And if you are a VIP, then we have our VIP night. And this Sunday, it's mediumship development. If you are a VIP, don't forget you can find all the details in the VIP lounge, and it is completely free. And it's run by Marcus, and Veronica's on the week after that. But lastly, we have the very last advert, because I don't like it to be an advert channel, but it's for everybody to sit, relax, and this is what's going on in March next year. There you go. Quite a lot happening in March, Ashley.
Fantastic, exciting thing happening in March. That partnership with SPTV and celebrate, life after death and everything that SPTV stands for. Bringing spiritual people together. Exactly what my grandfather set off to do in 1982 with Doris Stokes and Jesse Nason and Gordon Higginson. Let's share the knowledge of life after death with the people. Let's share the truths of spiritualism. Let's get like-minded people together, and no doubt my grandfather, and getting back to the church. They put a couple of quid in the plate. Next March, it's going to be brilliant, isn't it? So exclusive use of a beautiful hotel down in Bournemouth. All of the SBTV hosts giving you demonstrations of their gifts, workshops for everyone, including the first novice starting off on their path right through to the Jedi Master. Everyone welcome. Lots of really exciting things. So check out the website, folks, spiritseeker.co.uk, and it's going to be a great weekend.
Yeah, it will be, and I am so looking forward to it. And you've also got one, and I think there's only one room left, I believe, for March.
Yes, I've got a waiting list just in case of the individual. Within spiritualism and psyche, you like to think that everything is foretold, but destiny sometimes gets in the way of a good weekend away in March. So yeah, there is a waiting list, but we're one double room available right now if people are interested, and opportunities to get together. We've been chatting to so many of the SPTV fans online. It's going to be great to physically get together as we have that pathway out of lockdown and into some state of new normality.
Right. Well, thank you for that. We're running out of time, so not long to go. But Nat has one as a question. Does everyone have the ability to develop mediumship?
Absolutely. All they need to do with all churches, they always have development circles. You need to get yourself in there and practice, and more practice.
How would you start off, though, if it was someone who they're not quite sure what's happening, they're seeing things or they're hearing things, are they going mad? What would be their first step? What would you suggest?
I would say join a beginners group. That's what I teach. I do a beginners group and an intermediate. So what I would do first of all is they start off with a beginners group to get an understand the basics about protection and about what they can basically do, because in effect everybody has this gift. It's whether or not they want to take it on to the next level. So for me, we're all psychics or mediums in the wings. The question is how serious we want to take it.
Absolutely.
Okay, then. So if someone's come in, they've listened to your advice. If they see a medium online, for example, and they offer mediumship development, what advice would you give people? Would you check them out first, maybe watch some of their lives? Would you give them a call to make sure you feel right with that person? Or indeed go along to your nearest spiritualist church and get advice that way? But at this moment, very soon we can go back in again. But what would your advice be from there?
Well, for me I would definitely check them out, see whether or not they've had any testimonials regarding their ability, but normally within yourself, you know who's for you. You have that innate feeling when you're drawn to the right person. Same when you're going for a reading, you're always drawn to a certain individual that resonates quite strongly. And the same thing could be with the teaching element, but I would always do your homework first, see any testimonials, have a listen, see whether or not they resonate with you, because not everybody resonates you in terms of development. So you have to feel comfortable and confident that this is a person that can help you or help you on the path that you're seeking to develop on.
Absolutely. Trust your instincts and trust your intuition. And, it's a relationship. So first date principles, how does this feel? Is it going anywhere? Because you need a relationship with your circle peers. You need a relationship with your leader. It's not necessarily an intimate relationship. I don't want to start rumors about spiritualist circles, but it is a relationship and it needs to work. So, trust those instincts. And it's always good to get word of mouth or find the right person and talk to other people that have been involved with that group or that particular circle leader. And like a shoe, the shoe's got to fit. So you might need to try on a few, or if you're lucky enough, I didn't need to go through too much whiskey before I found a nice bourbon from Kentucky that I quite liked. So you don't have to try everything.
Oh, thank you for that. Another question's come in from Amy. Do you, as mediums, communicate regularly with your own loved ones?
Try to. Communication changes, doesn't it? I think for me, I'm holding up the walkie-talkie, and for all of the people I know in that place I call heaven, they've all got to go on the walkie-talkie course. They've got to work out how to communicate with me through my guides, for themselves. So if you take communication as an umbrella term, yes, I'm regularly in contact. Can I still have a conversation with my nan like I used to do over a cup of tea? No. And that makes me sad. I physically miss the presence of my nan in the same way that other people do. But sometimes all I need to do is to be in that moment, to attune to that energy of the personality that was my nan, and I know that she's with me, and therefore that communication is existing and feels incredible. So just having the belief in a life after death, knowing that there is a life after this life and that they are able to see and influence and inspire us, that in itself is an incredible thing, and therefore communication does exist.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree, but I'm always thanking them for guiding me through the day, because I always feel that spirit is with us, where, they're just there on hand, because that is what they love to do. So yeah, I would definitely agree with everything that Ashley's just said.
Bernicia, just going back and ask you a question, if you don't mind. If you mentioned earlier on, I think it was Ashley in this house, talk about meditation and to communicate with the loved ones and your guides. What if you can't meditate? Some people can't do it. They can't sit in the peace and quiet. I know some people say you can wash up and that's a type of meditation, or walking, or whatever the case may be. But what if someone is so desperate to know who their guide is and they need the answers, but they can't meditate? What advice could you offer them?
But to me, is we shouldn't fixate about guides, because at the end of the day is that blocks the communication. That can always be revealed at a later point. By quieting the mind, you're allowing spirit to step forward. So for me, it took me when I first started, it took me at least 2 to 3 months to shut my brain down in terms of the idle chatter. So it is a skill, and the thing is, the more you practice, the better it is for you to hear spirit. And it's just shutting out the mundane things. By you quietening your mind, it allows spirit to step forward. So it is an effort. And I feel the more effort you put in, the more easy it is for you to make that connection with spirit. And to me, that goes hand in hand. You have to learn to meditate. I always say start off with 5 minutes and then increase it as you move forward.
So actually, you were saying you can't meditate. And I'm the same, I can't. So how do you deal with it? How do you close your mind?
I struggle. I mean, I'm 38 years old, and my parents have been trying to help me to meditate for the last 38 years. Sometimes I'm able to go on a bit more of a guided journey. I do love a good bit of relaxation music. But every night, even when I go to sleep, and you're trying to clear your mind of last night's shopping list and everything else you forget to do, I struggle, and at times this has led to different battles to overcome anxiety and even sort of bouts of depression, because I have a busy mind and it's like a roller coaster of different things going on. But practice and continuing to surrender yourself to something greater than yourself, I mean, that was a real important part to me, and asking for help, dedicating myself and surrendering myself to the will of something greater than myself. Often I find that Spirit will take the reins and guide and push me in the right direction. But I was honest earlier on when I said it. It took me 20 years of really starting to understand who my mediumship guide was. Because they didn't need labels and names in the same way that I, as a sort of human being in this 3D world, wanted them. But it was important for me to continue to do that. And I think the other important thing is you need to find out what sort of works well for you. As I said, keep picking up that walkie-talkie. Find out what that walkie-talkie is for you, and practice that attunement. How do you tune in or turn on to this? And always great to have some dedicated sort of leaders, like a good circle leader we spoke about, that's going to kind of guide you through this. But my sister, who's not watching the show today, my dad is, will probably laugh, because my sister used to call herself the psychic. She used to sit next to me in circle when we were teenagers and go, "Oh, I get nothing." And our circle leader would say, "Well, you must have got something." "No, I got nothing." And they'd say, "Well, what did you get when you closed your eyes?" And she goes, "Well, I got nothing." "Well, you must. What did you see?" "Well, I just saw black." "Well, black is a colour. So let's see what this colour black means." "Oh, I think it was the inside of my eyelids." "Well, that might have been red. So did you see red?" "What did you hear? Did you hear the waterfalls?" "No, I could hear you saying about the waterfalls." "Okay, that in itself means something." So I think it's like being a spoilt child and continuing to ask why. What does that mean? What about that? Understanding that there is nothing as nothing, and then continuing to challenge that status quo, and you realise that it was something. When you can eventually clear the mind's eye and reveal that blank canvas, you'll be quite surprised what a masterpiece may be drawn upon it. And then practice that craft. Some of us are better naturally gifted artists. If we all had to draw a picture of our house now and submit it on SPTV, I'm sure there'd be some real works of art, and there'd be some scribbles. And the fact is that some of us will be more naturally talented, but if you keep practicing drawing, particularly if you keep practicing drawing your house, every week, every month, every day, every other hour, you will eventually start to get much better at drawing a picture of your house. And then when you could master drawing your house, you might be able to draw other things. And I think your own spirituality works like that to a certain extent.
So when you hear people, I'm just going to quote what Alison Barton has just said here. She's just said, "I've got nothing." And I must admit, when I sit down and I work away while they're doing their VIP nights, I have sometimes a headset on, and I do listen in every now and then. And then Marcus, bless him, someone might say, "I didn't get anything," and he say, "Yes, you did." As though it's not pushing, but he's saying you've got something. He's just trying to get you to understand what you received, and you should never feel embarrassed about it, because it may mean absolutely nothing to you, but to the recipient it could mean so much. For example, you may say, "Well, I've just been shown. I've closed my eyes, and all I can see now is a silver horse brooch." That's nothing. It may mean absolutely nothing to you, but for the recipient, that could be so important as a memory link, as a gift, as to prove the evidence. So it's about letting go, isn't it? It's about trusting people, trusting spirit. So anyway,
but not only that, it is allowing the person to just say what they see, and that's when. In my beginners class, that's the biggest thing, because they're fearing that they're going to make a fool of themselves, and they're not. And then when you encourage them and they start to open up, even they are quite shocked that they've hit the nail on the head. And I feel it's all about trust. It's about nurturing that gift and just allowing them to keep opening. And the more they see that they're bringing proof through, the more they realize the gift has always been there.
Yeah, as Mary Dixie's just said, the thing that people get wrong is trying to block things. Just relax and let it happen.
Absolutely.
Mary was one of my circle leaders.
Yeah, at Wimbledon Spiritualist Chairs. Go on, say it.
Well, you plugged that one for
me. Bless her. Well, I just want to say thank you for joining me this evening. and we went over for a couple of minutes, but I hope people don't mind. I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and
Yes,
and thank you for answering all the questions. There's still a lot more questions out there. I hope everybody at home has enjoyed the show as well. Any lasting comments?
All I would say to you, if you feel drawn to connect with spirit, I would say do it, because for me it was the best thing I have ever done, and I've never ever regretted. Even if I didn't do the work that I'm doing, I still feel connecting with spirit is still a beautiful gift to have.
But okay, just come on. Sorry to interrupt you, Ashley, because I said I'd ask you last comments. You just said the word gift. Now, a lot of people don't like that word gift. They like the word, for example, abilities. What's your thoughts on that? We will finish.
Well, I think that a gift is something you should treasure and cherish. I think that the reason that yesterday was in the past and our history, and tomorrow is the future, and that today is present time, because life in itself is a gift. And if you therefore accept the gifts of the spirit world, you can treasure that and go forward with it.
But it's an ability, isn't it? Everybody has this ability, and it's enhancing it, it's turning it on, as the expression goes. So is it a gift when some people don't want it?
You can always return a gift.
As Spirit said to me once, we give it, we take it.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah. Right. How can people get hold of you?
Okay, then for me I do have a website, BerniciaSpiritualMedium.com, and I'm also on Facebook as well.
Do you run any circles or groups or anything like that?
Yes, I run a circle at Leicester Progressive Spiritualist Centre in Leicester. I normally put it up on their website when I start one, but yeah, I do. And I do various other circles at other places as well. But if you get in contact with me on my website, I'll be able to advise you.
Great. Thank you. I know where they can contact you, Ashley, but just for those listeners at home.
Well, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, things like that, at Ash Robinson Medium. And every other Friday from next Friday, my Being Spiritual show on SPTV. And if you did come to SPTV on YouTube or Facebook tonight as a stranger, leave as a friend, join the SPTV fan page on Facebook. Do get involved in this wonderful community. As I say, it's set out to bring spiritual people together. It's been a real privilege to work with you all this evening. I've loved it, Richard. Thank you, folks at home, and Richard and Miss Tonge, Lady Tonge.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Richard. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, anytime. It's been great. And no doubt we'll hope to see you back on again. Continue this and then hopefully go down some more rabbit holes. A bit more in depth.
Definitely.
Oh, they're a big enough hole for me.
Right, thanks very much. Good night, everyone. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.